We have yet another very important Supreme Court decision. The Supreme Court has ruled that Donald Trump cannot shut down DACA. And this is an important decision to understand, both because of what it does say and because of what it doesn't say, actually. So as a reminder, DACA is Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. The idea is that there are people who came to the United States illegally when they were underage. They were not adults, and they were brought by parents. And DACA is essentially a program which says we are not going to deport individuals who, even if they are adults today, as some of them are, came here when they were children, not by their choice, not because they said, I'm going to do something which I know is against the law, but because they were brought here by their parents. And it's a completely logical program. And Donald Trump promised, it's another failed promise. Donald Trump promised when he was running for president back in 2015 and 2016, he said he would, quote, immediately terminate the executive order by former President Barack Obama, which he called illegal amnesty for hundreds of thousands of young immigrants. About 700,000 folks, in fact, potentially would be affected by terminating DACA. And the Supreme Court has decided it's not happening. But the devil is in the details. And the reason why the Supreme Court decided this is very important. It was a 5-4 decision. Chief Justice John Roberts, a George W. Bush appointee, wrote the majority opinion along with the 4 more liberal members of the Supreme Court. And they wrote in that decision, quote, we do not decide whether DACA or its rescission are sound policies. We address only whether the agency complied with the procedural requirement that it provide a reasoned explanation for its action. So this is like the most important thing to know. The court is not deciding whether or not the policy is good or bad. And the court is not deciding whether there are other cases Trump could make to end DACA. All the court is saying is that Trump's argument was a bad one. Incredibly, this again comes down to the Trump administration is sort of incompetent. The way they are making some of these legal fights go is setting them up to lose. Donald Trump's argument was that when Barack Obama created and maintained the program, he was operating beyond the legal power he has as president. That was the argument that was made. The Supreme Court looks at the argument that is made. And the Supreme Court decided, no, Barack Obama had the power to do this. And he articulated reasons why he did it. And we aren't deciding whether we believe politically they are good or bad reasons or economically they are good or bad reasons. Trump's argument was Obama overstepped authority. And the Supreme Court determined that that is not the case. This should be a warning to us that Donald Trump could try to revoke DACA again and formulate the argument differently. Donald Trump, if he were better and his lawyers were better at filing documents, essentially, they could have made an argument that the Supreme Court very well may have upheld and said, go ahead and end DACA. So this is another reminder of how urgent and important it is to remove Donald Trump in November before he can appoint more people to the Supreme Court and before he can again make what will probably be a stronger legal argument, what could be a stronger legal argument for ending DACA. Now, there are a couple of people writing to me, and I see them posting on Twitter and elsewhere saying, you idiot leftists who think you've got to vote for Biden because of the Supreme Court. Look at this Supreme Court, which made the decision you guys want on LGBT discrimination last week, and now they made the decision that you want on the issue of DACA this time around. The argument they are saying that we must vote Biden over Trump because of the Supreme Court is a dumb argument, they say, because the Supreme Court decided the way we would have decided on these two cases. And there's a couple of really important things to point out here. Number one, the way that this ended up going Obama's way on DACA rather than Trump's is because Trump's argument was a dumb argument. It was just a bad legal argument. It was such a dumb argument that even a conservative Supreme Court had to find this as the outcome. And remember, Gorsuch and Kavanaugh both said, yeah, this is a good enough argument to get rid of DACA. So if Donald Trump was able to have put together a better argument on getting rid of DACA, it would probably be gone right now. There's a good chance that it would be gone right now. That's number one. Number two, the LGBT decision did go the right way, but Kavanaugh was wrong on that one. I mean, in other words, Kavanaugh voted with the minority on the LGBT decision. And so did Gorsuch Gorsuch on this one, along with Kavanaugh. So the idea that we don't have to worry about the Supreme Court because these two decisions went what we consider to be the right way is an absolute and total joke. Only one of Trump's picks made the right decision on one of these two cases. Otherwise, you're talking about appointees from other presidents. So if you're saying we don't need to worry about judges in thinking about Biden versus Trump 2020, you're living in a fantasy world. You're living on a planet that I certainly don't recognize. And if anything, these two cases, when you really look at the details, reinforce the case for judges in the Supreme Court being of critical importance in what we do in November.